David, you are live.
I'm live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm David McCarter, and, I'm really happy you're all here for the inaugural show. I'm very, very excited to, not only bring the show to you with CSharpCorner, but I'm really, really excited about our very, very first guest, Scott Hunter, the big wig at Microsoft. And with that, we had to rearrange the show a little bit. So we're just going to do two little things about the giveaways, and then we're going to go right into asking Scott Hunter the hard questions about .NET 5. So again, I'm glad you're all here, and we'll talk more about what the show is and what our plans are in the second half of the hour. And my slide deck isn't working. Awesome. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had clapping. All right, so every episode of the show, I'm going to give away some really cool stuff. Some things will change, but some things will be pretty the same. So every week, we're going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card to anybody on the show. We're going to give away CSharpCorner swag, T-shirts, backpacks, whatever they want to give to a lucky person every week. I'm going to give away some dotNetDave, .NET Tips swag. Unfortunately, to only U.S. residents because it just costs too much money to send it anywhere else. And until we get a sponsor. And everybody on the show today will get a free copy of my favorite code refactoring tool, CodeRush from DevExpress. So, but you have to stay till the end. All right. So how do you win? Well, you've got to pay attention and type fast, okay? And Simon will pick the winner and splash it up on the screen for everybody. All right, so let's do the very, very first giveaway of the very first show. And this giveaway is for CSharpCorner gifts. And I'm not going to leave this up long, so read fast. Ready? So to win, the first person that answers this question in the chat will win the CSharpCorner gifts. How many times have I been to India to speak at the CSharpCorner conference? There's me rocking out. I love playing guitar in front of my fans, I guess, in CSharpCorner. So there you go. First one that knows that and puts it in the chat wins. All right. I'm going to introduce our very special guest, Scott Hunter. And he's going to come on and answer your questions from his car. It's going to be fun. So, but before that, I've known Scott for 6 years, and the reason is because, come on. Well, there was supposed to be a video playing, but anyway, Scott, I was so happy I got Scott to come down to my retirement party from the San Diego .NET developers group. He came down. We had an awesome time. We had band, which I was in, and we had a great time. And that's when I got to meet and get to know Scott. And I'm really glad that I do know him. And that was my 20-year retirement party. And now it's run by one of my friends here in San Diego. So let's get Scott on. Scott Hunter is responsible for Microsoft's .NET platform, which includes the .NET Framework, .NET Core, ASP.NET, any framework, .NET Tools, Web Tools, and managed languages, C#, F#, and VB. Prior to leading the .NET platform, Hunter helped the Azure Developer Experience team to build Azure SDKs, App Service Tooling, Azure Redis, Cache, Azure API Management, ASP.NET, any framework, and web tooling. I guess you guys can tell I didn't read this prior to this. In his spare time, he loves hiking the mountains in Washington State and around the world. So with that, Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Great to be here. Great to be on your first episode from my car.
I know. I actually can't see you live because have to watch the published one. So how's it going?
Going great. I mean, we are. It feels crazy. We're just a little over a month away from shipping .NET 5 on November 10th. And so we're in that crazy shutdown phase, and all of us are panicking as we look at the number of bugs we have left, and we're trying to fight that bug countdown to RTM. But I know we'll make it.
I know you will. You do. You've got a really good cadence now with these yearly major updates, and I think you guys have been doing a great job. To me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody, please type your questions into the chat, and Simon will flash them up on the screen for us. And so, Scott, what's like the first question I have is just what's like the big deal with .NET 5?
The big deal with .NET 5 is actually not going to actually ship in .NET 5. The real journey that we want our customers to realize is that, over the time, this is one of the jokes I always like to make is, we have too many .NETs at Microsoft. We have .NET Framework, we have Xamarin, we have .NET Core. We really want to get back to having a single .NET again. And so the reason that .NET 5 is called .NET 5 and not .NET Core 4 is because we're trying to signal that, we're trying to go back to a single brand. And so once we get to .NET 6, we will bring all the Xamarin workloads directly into .NET as well. And so at that point, we'll have a single unified stack. But that said, we did a bunch of unification in .NET 5 as well. So if you wrote a Blazor app today on .NET Core 3.1, you're actually using the mono BCL. Mm-hmm. If you write a Blazor app on .NET 5, you're using the .NET Core BCL. And so, and we'll do that same thing for the Xamarin stack in the .NET 6 way. But our real goal is to try to end the confusion of, are you on Core? Are you on Framework? What's the newest? What do you build? We really want our customers to be on the new tech. And so .NET 5 is really a continuation of .NET Core, dropping the Core brand. And so moving forward, there's just .NET 5, .NET 6, .NET 7. So that's, it's not a technical thing, but it is a big messaging and marketing kind of thing to make our platform simpler and we call it unifying the stack.
Well, I personally, as a speaker and a teacher and a writer, I'm really glad you're doing it because it's been horribly even frustrating for me to try to explain all the different things to, somebody new to .NET or, coming to my conference sessions and then if I blurt out the word .NET standard, they have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'm really glad you're bringing it all back into one ecosystem. And that's, quite frankly, why, in almost my entire programming career, I've loved Visual Studio because it's all just one ecosystem. I don't need anything else hardly but Visual Studio. So,
yeah, it is a unique challenge, actually. It's even inside of Microsoft, we have people that are confused about the core versus the framework versus all those things. So, I do think the unification is going to be a big part of our stack. And you mentioned .NET Standard, which is interesting because .NET Standard we announced that in 2016 actually. And one of the biggest challenges we have with dotNetDave all up is people don't know. For whatever reason, our customers always seem to be like 5 years behind us, meaning that it's still insane to this day that the number of times that I go talk to a customer and they're like, "Well, Scott, you're on a Mac. How does .NET run on a Mac?" I'm like, we've been cross-platform since 2016. We've been open source since 2014. We like to call this the perception problems that we have in .NET, which is we are still seen as the Windows-centric 2002 release. And it'll take us more time to go and finish this journey of letting everybody know that we actually are totally free. You don't have to pay for it. Runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, ARM32, ARM64, and it's open source. And you can use CLI with your editor of choice, or you can use Visual Studio like you mentioned before. So but that really is the message that we still need to keep pounding out to our customers, so they all know where we are today.
Yeah, and I think when you were talking about that, it kind of reminded me of trying to explain things kind of like Azure. What does Azure do? What can it do? Where does it run? How does it run? And then .NET is kind of the same thing. Where I can really use one thing for everything. And that's one thing I think I really liked about the direction with Microsoft for a while now, is that unlike maybe some other companies, you embrace other languages and stacks and things like that, and bring them into your ecosystem so everybody can use it, as opposed to having to jump out and do it in a completely different language or something like that.
Yeah, this might surprise people, but when you read my bio, I've been doing .NET at Microsoft since 2007, and this might be shocking to some people, but my team also is responsible for building Java.
Really? I didn't know that.
As you mentioned, if you look at DevDiv, we work on Python, we work on Node, we work on Java, we work on .NET, we work in a variety of languages. While I think .NET's the most productive platform, the reality is there's customers on a variety of platforms, and that's also another part of our journey with .NET is, a lot of people ask me, Scott, why didn't you bring WCF, Windows Communication Foundation, to .NET Core / .NET 5? Well, that's really Windows-centric tech. And, moving forward, we don't want to be so Windows-centric. And so, .NET Core 3.0 and 3.1 shipped with support for gRPC.
Yes.
And gRPC it's very similar to WCF. It's tightly bound contracts. You define the types and stuff go into your methods. You call your methods, and it just feels kind of seamless. But we chose that over bringing full WCF in because gRPC is very cross-platform. It works on Go, it works on Rust, it works on Java, it works on a variety of languages. And in the core world, what we kind of know is we don't assume any company is just a .NET only shop. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of those too, but a lot of companies have a mix of Java, Node, .NET, and our job is to make sure that .NET interoperates really well across those. And so gRPC is a WCF style way of doing that across all the languages. And then even REST, we've been shipping REST, in .NET for forever.
Yeah.
But I've been really happy with the work we've done in .NET Core 3 and .NET 5 especially. We're trying to take our REST technologies and make the tooling as good as the WCF tooling was. So now in .NET 5, you can build, if you build a web API, we actually inject Open API through a package called Swashbuckle into all of the API projects. And what that does, that Open API is a spec called Swagger that shows the definition of your API. And from that, I can provide rich tooling. That is generating a client automatically for you. That was like the #1 most requested feature for web APIs forever for us. But
Me too.
Because I could write my code, and then I would just go create another project and say reference that thing, and it would do all the hookup for me automatically and write all the logic. We have all that in web APIs now. So if you build a web API in .NET Core 3.1 or .NET 5, especially .NET 5 because the Open API is on by default. In .NET Core 3.1, you would have to install the Swashbuckle or InSwag package yourself. You can then create a WinForm project or a Blazor project or a console project. Right-click on the project, say Add, go to Connected Services, select the web API, point it to your web API, and we'll generate the entire client for you to make it easy to call that API.
I'm so happy.
Which it seems simple, but it's funny. You look at the code we generate, and you're like, "Crap, I don't want to write any of that."
Sure. Yeah. And that's a lot of work for developers. The way I develop and the way I segment things out in my projects, it's easier to do to kind of get around the limitation we've had that, the auto-generated proxy classes like you used to have in, WCF. So I've had to kind of handhold people across the process on how to make that easier. But this is better, because now you have, I guess, are they just kind of like the proxy classes that were created by WCF, sort of?
Sort of, yes. But we do give you a bunch of new features because you're using the newer HTTP client. You can actually inject your own HTTP client into the thing that we generate for you, which means you can set your own retry policies and stuff like that without having to go touch the code, which is an important part of that. And they are generated at build time, which means if the definition changes, all it takes is a recompile of the project, and we'll change the proxies on the fly. While the WCF work would require you to go and probably delete the reference and re-add the reference. We made, once again, it's 2020. We're better than that, and so now we can make those things actually just more dynamic and more compilation based. So it's easier to keep things in sync than it was before in the past with WCF.
I'm really happy to hear, and you've cleared up a lot of my confusion, even, with, because every time I start working on an API, I go, where's WCF? And it's not necessarily because of the endpoints, it's because of the flexibility, of WCF that, that came, when that came out in .NET 2 or 3, .NET 3, wasn't it?
It was
WCF.
3. It was that weird. That's one of those weird things that we did. That was the .NET 3, which was a kind of a weird release in that it was kind of like an add-on to the existing .NET 2 at the time. And it wasn't really baked all the way in the platform until .NET 3.5.
Right. Yeah. So you've already answered one of my questions that I had written down, pre-written down for you. So here's another one that, because I'm actually working and thinking about this right now, so I thought I'd ask the expert. And so is .NET supported with the older frameworks like the CLR, and how?
Is .NET supported with the CL? Help me a little bit. What exactly are you asking?
Well, what I'm asking is if some people start writing new code in .NET 5 or 6 or whatever, and they still have, like for me, I still have a WinForm app in .NET 4 something, right? Can I still connect to that and maybe vice versa?
So is the question more of, are we still supporting .NET Framework 4.8 and above, or
no? The question is from .NET 4.6, can I call .NET 5 DLLs?
Yes, that's a great question. So, and it's a very common scenario for our customers. I mean, the reality is, .NET Framework shipped in 2002, and the first .NET Core shipped in 2016. So obviously, there's 14 years of code that's been created before there ever was a .NET Core, and that's where the kind of the question you kind of asked before about .NET Standard. What is .NET Standard? And so we kind of recognize as a team as we went on the .NET Core journey. And for folks that don't know, the reason that there even was a .NET Core was because we realized the only way to take .NET into the future was to kind of break away from the past a little bit and to have a new platform that ran on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it was fully open source. But obviously, we know our customers have lots of old code, and so there's a couple of ways you can do this. Is first off, there's something called .NET Standard, still super important today, and .NET Standard's hard to describe because it's not a physical thing. Right. What .NET Standard really is a list of methods and functions and objects that Emo Landworth and folks on my team put together. It's all the APIs that exist on .NET Framework and Mono. It's kind of the intersection of the APIs between Mono and .NET Framework. And so what it is if your code is .NET Standard compliant, meaning, and that's, you can actually make this in Visual Studio. You can create a .NET Standard class library. Any code inside of that works across all the stacks. So you can, if you write a library and make it .NET Standard compliant, well, it runs on Xamarin. It works on .NET Framework. It works on .NET Core. Now, Dave might have been asking a more nuanced question. Imagine the case of you wrote some code or you used the library in .NET Framework, say in 2010. You don't have the source code for it.
Yeah.
If you have that library and all the APIs in that library exist in .NET Core or .NET 5, you can actually use it without recompiling it at all.
Huh.
.NET still is just .NET, meaning that all we do is have some tech in .NET that knows how to read what's called IL. IL is the tech that when you compile a class library, it's compiled into IL. As long as all the APIs that library uses exist in .NET Core /5, they'll work without recompile. So we don't require you to recompile anything. So two things that I think are important to think here is, number one is, if you want to write code that you want to share across all the .NETs, you really want to make it .NET Standard compliant code. And there's a class library type in .NET in Visual Studio for exactly that. If you are going to port something to .NET Core /.NET 5 and you don't have the code for it, just reference it and try it. It will likely work. At Build a couple of years ago, I actually took a zip library that hadn't been updated since like 2010, and it just loads and works just fine. And in fact, if you look at NuGet.org, I believe now we're up to around 75 or 80% of all the packages there work on .NET Core now, and that's because we've added enough APIs back over the journey from .NET Core 1 to 3. We added a ton of APIs back as we listened and watched to see what customers wanted to do.
Yeah, that's man, that sounds really awesome. To tell you the truth. I know are there any questions yet from the audience?
So I'm looking at some of the questions right now, Dave. One of them is what is your story? How did you get into Microsoft? I'm happy to answer that. So So I used to live in California, actually not far from where Dave is today. I was up in Orange County, and oddly enough, Microsoft is not something that I actually thought of as a place I wanted to go, because at the time that I was working down in Orange County, Microsoft was this really closed source Windows centric company. And then suddenly I started reading this guy's blog. His name was Scott Guthrie. And he was very progressive, and the way he talked about .NET, the way he was customer driven, the feedback and the talks about being very open about how .NET was built and stuff like that interested me in Microsoft. This is a funny story actually. So I actually go to the job site at Microsoft. I apply. And I show up for an interview, and I totally tanked my first interview at Microsoft. What happened was I was working for a company in Orange County called Starbase, and we built technology that was very similar to Team Foundation Server. And when I applied to Microsoft, I said I want to work on C#, as the hat says, and I show up, and because they looked at my history, I was suddenly doing an interview loop with the TFS team. And I'm like, on my second interview, I'm like, why are you asking all these source control questions? And so it did not go well, because that was not what I wanted to work on. And so that failed. I applied again about a year later. And this time when I talked to the recruiter, I said, I want to work for the .NET team, whether it's ASP.NET, C#, whatever. I said, if you're going to have me interview with somebody else, do not bring me up. And so I joined in 2007 after that loop, and it was an interesting time because Scott Hanselman, who I think most people would probably know as well, he joined 2 months after I joined, and Phil Hack, who was also one of the big people that worked on both NuGet and MVC, joined as well. And so Phil Hack and Scott Hanselman and I kind of grew up together at Microsoft.
Well, as you were talking about Scott Guthrie, if you can get him on my show, that would be freaking awesome. I would love to talk to him one-on-one. That'd be a lot of fun. So which question do you want to? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's there on the screen. Yeah, it's there on the screen. You can read the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Will there be an easier recommended path to migrate ASP.NET 4 to .NET 5? That was actually one of my questions. How is the migration path for the older code to the new .NET 5?
Moving from any .NET Core to .NET 5 will be pretty easy. Moving from .NET Framework to .NET 5 is a little more challenging, but we're working on that. And I think in the .NET 6 wave, you're going to see a lot of work there. So for people that don't know, there's a tool called try-convert. If you just Google try-convert.net, looks like Dave's trying right now.
No, I'm writing it down.
Try-convert, I'm going to do it right now. Try-convert is it's in GitHub, and if I can stick it in the chat, I'll stick it in the chat here real quick.
Okay.
And what try-convert does, try-convert, just Google it, it's in GitHub, and it's a project we wrote that will actually take a older .NET project and convert the project file to the new project file. For folks that don't know, that's another big investment we made along the path from .NET Framework to .NET Core. Is it used to be that our project files were just piles of GUIDs and piles of they're unhuman editable. And so one of our goals in the .NET Core journey was to make those files human editable. And so the try-convert, what it will do is it'll take an older project and convert the project file to a modern project file, modern project file format that we have in Core/.NET. And so if you want to move an application, probably the first thing you want to do is run that tool on it, and then kind of press compile until you get things working again. If you're moving from like ASP.NET to .NET Core, there's two paths. If you have an ASP.NET Web API project or an ASP.NET MVC project, they will move actually pretty easily.
Yeah.
For the most part, what I would actually do if you're moving one of those types of projects is I would create a brand new ASP.NET MVC project, and then I would take the controllers, whether it's Web API or MVC, and I would basically paste them into the controller folder, and paste the views into the view folder, and then just compile until it works again.
Yeah.
That's not a huge leap. If you're moving from web forms, web forms is one of the things that we did not bring forward in the .NET Core world.
Right.
But there's a better tech that actually mimics it quite closely, and that is Blazor. And so Blazor has a similar component model that web forms had, meaning that if you go look, Telerik, DevExpress, SyncFusion, all the people that build, cool tools for .NET, they all have controls for Blazor, just like they have controls for web forms.
Yeah.
Jeff Fritz on my team, if you just Google Jeff Fritz, Blazor to web forms or web forms to Blazor, he has built a library of Blazor components that have the same names as the components in web forms.
Really?
And so
I didn't know
really
he did
tell
that.
somebody that wants to do that to look at that. And it means that your markup is a little different, but the coding practices are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And so that's the best way to move an ASP.NET project, into the new world.
Well, quite frankly, moving my code except for WinForms to .NET Standard, .NET Core, for me personally wasn't really that hard. I just moved the class files over to the new project, changed a couple things, and I was up and running. So I never had a huge problem moving except for WinForms. I still have one app left in WinForms, and so I compare that to 18 years ago. The migration story, I think, at Microsoft in the .NET world at least is a lot better than it used to be, for sure.
Yeah, listen to this. So Jeffers' project, which is called Blazor Webforms Components. He has add rotator, button, hidden fields, hyperlink, image button, label, link button, literal, data list, forms view, grid view, list view, repeater, custom validator, regular expression validator, required field validator, validation summary, tree view. He's got 23 of these things already ported over.
Wow.
And we add more every day to make that web form migration to Blazor easier. And then the other benefit you get out of that is, web forms based applications or post-back based applications, which means every time you take an action on the page, we refresh the entire web page. The cool thing about using Jeff Fritz's tech is Blazor apps are all SPA apps, which means the page never redraws. And so it makes it easy to port a web form application, and then the application becomes a more modern feeling application. And that's another cool piece of the .NET Core 3.1/5 tech as well. Is one of the most exciting things for us is, we find that a lot of folks want to write desktop applications, but they want to build them with web tech. And they want to do that because, it works on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, any version, works on a Mac. So, with Blazor, another cool feature of Blazor is at creation time, you can click a button and make it a PWA. That's a progressive web application. And if you load a progressive web application into a browser, whether it's Chrome or Edge or Safari or Firefox, all of those will have an option somewhere in the Chrome of the app where you can actually click a button and make that application a desktop app. And so you can build a Blazor application today, check that box, and then suddenly it runs as a native app on your desktop, which I think is a really cool piece of tech.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get up to speed with Blazor, but one thing that, because I have been doing talks on Blazor for a couple of years now, and one thing that people cautiously ask me is, so how long is Blazor going to last before it's killed, or should I look at Blazor, right? And my answer is yes, look at Blazor, because I know of all the work that you and Jeff and Carl Franklin and all you people are putting into, and Michael Washington, and making sure that all this stuff becomes the new way of doing things.
Yeah, that's it's actually, that's one of the biggest fears of, if you're using Microsoft tech, one of your biggest fears probably is, oh my God, I'm afraid to go build an app on some new UI stack because we've killed a bunch of them in the past.
Light switch.
The primary one,
not light switch. What was that called? Your Flash, Silverlight. Yeah.
Yes, Silverlight's the big one.
Yeah.
Blazor won't go down that path because Blazor is completely built on web standards.
Yeah.
Silverlight really died, because in the modern world, if you cannot run those applications on your smartphone, then they don't make sense. And smartphones and browsers in general, after December of this year, are not going to run plugins at all. It used to be that Silverlight was a plugin, Flash was a plugin. That tech's all being retired, and that's because primarily it didn't work on smartphones. Android had Flash running on smartphones for a small point of time, but if you ran a Flash game on an Android phone, it would run for about 10 minutes before the battery of your phone died. And so the tech didn't make sense. But Blazor is just web tech. And you're going to see us do even crazier things with Blazor. There's an awesome project out there, if you just Google it, Blazor Mobile Bindings. And what Blazor Mobile Bindings does is it lets you create what we call hybrid applications. And a hybrid application is an app that's both native and web tech. And so a Blazor Mobile Binding application, you can put Xamarin Controls inside of your Blazor application.
Wow.
So imagine having some web and then having some native Xamarin Controls in there as well. And that application because the Blazor controls, one of the cool things about Blazor controls is they run on all the operating systems. So I can build an app that has both got Blazor inside of it and has Xamarin controls inside of it and can run on iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows.
Wow.
And that, I think, is really the future of where Blazor is going to go next is, hey, we've got the web only thing going really, really well. But we know some folks, like if you're running Slack or you're running Teams or you're running Dropbox or you're running Spotify, those are all actually web apps. But they run inside of what's called the Electron shell.
Right.
Which enables them to have access to native parts of your operating system. We want to take Blazor to that same place where you can build a Blazor app that runs in that kind of Blazor mobile binding model where it's a web app, but it can run inside of a frame or a shell on any of the OS platforms. And so I don't think worrying about Blazor dying, it will never happen because it's web tech, but we'll take it beyond that to letting you run Blazor in more places.
Wow, my mind was just blown, and that's hard to do with me. Blown in a good way. Well, you have to go, don't you?
I got 2 or 3 more minutes.
Okay, so so let's get off of if we just have a couple minutes, let's talk about you. So what's up with you? What do you like to? So I figured out a question to ask you. So once .NET ships, what's the first thing you're going to do for fun?
So for me, my fun is primarily hiking big mountains. So folks probably don't know it, but in 2018, I took my youngest daughter, and we went to Africa and we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
So that's a 20,000 foot mountain. It took us about 7 days to go up and down. And it was probably it was the coolest thing I've ever done with my kids. Meaning that in the world we all live in today, we are so inundated with technology. My kids are connected to smartphones all the time. They're TikToking or they're Instagramming or they're Snapchatting or whatever. And so you never feel like you have that really tight bond. When you go climb a big mountain like that with your kid, there is no internet for 7 days.
I know.
And so I got to hang out on the mountain with my daughter for 7 days with just us. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had.
Wow.
And I plan to go back and do it again, once COVID's all passed. My older daughter, who passed on the trip, after she heard my younger daughter talk about the trip, she wants to do it too. And so I'm gonna go back to Kilimanjaro with both my daughters and climb that again. I won't do that right after we ship .NET 5. Hopefully after, but I love hiking. I love snow. We're supposed to have a good winter in Washington State this year. And so if the weather is right, I will probably go and snowshoe.
I've done that.
After, shipping .NET 5.
Well, it sounds like you went to a much better part of Africa than I did. I was in Africa for, I think, like 5 torturous days when I was in the Navy, but that sounds like a lot more fun than what I saw. I went on a safari. That was cool, but
I missed the safari part of it because we were already gone for a week. It was summer, and it was just me and my youngest daughter. We wanted to get back to the rest of my family, and so we didn't get to do the safari. But Africa was amazing. Kilimanjaro was super. We were in Tanzania, is where we started at before we went up the mountain. The people were amazing. The culture was amazing, and it's this will sound crazy to some people, but we had about 20 people that helped us up the mountain. You can't go climb Kilimanjaro by yourself. You have to actually do it with some guides.
Guides, yeah.
And many of us still text those guides today because they watch out for us and our lives for 7 days, and that's a bond you can't forget. And so it's kind of fun that we still talk to all those guides. And hopefully, I'm going to go back with the same crew again.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That sounds like fun. I hope you post a lot of pictures from that. I'd love to see them, especially being a photographer. I would love to see the pictures from there.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me today, Dave. I really appreciate it. And I will promote the show. Thank you very much.
Talk to Scott. Well, Scott, I couldn't ask for a better first guest on my new show. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time out for us for 35 minutes or so. And I'm really glad you made the show. And for being on the show, you're going to get a commemorative, one-of-a-kind T-shirt from CSharpCorner, Rockin The Code, the dotNetDave T-shirt that only guests get. And maybe they'll get me one. So thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Have a great day. See ya. So everybody, that's Scott Hunter. I hope you liked it. I'm sorry he had to go early. He's probably working on .NET 5, so I think that's a good trade-off. So is Mahesh here? Is Mahesh yeah?
Hey Dave, I'm back. What's going on? Hey, nicely done. That was great.
I was just when Scott was talking, I was sitting and trying to, listen and also think about it. And I was going, I think I learned more in that 35 minutes than any guest I've ever had on my podcast or anything. I love all you guys that were on my podcast, but, talking to the man, Scott Hunter, I thought was pretty awesome.
Agreed, because he's very technical and he's hands-on with everything, and he's the one leading the charge in .NET. And I know there's a lot of guys still have questions, so maybe you may want to bring him back at some point. There's a lot of questions .NET 5, so a lot of guys are still asking. So again, very sorry to hear about CEO disappointed, but again, he had limited time, and I think you're grateful that at least he still made his commitment.
Yes, I would love to have him back when he gets back from his trip from Africa, show us some pictures and stuff. But the one thing that he had to go, but the one thing I wanted to mention to him, and he's probably not going to hear this, is that there's one thing he made me feel really good about, and he said that he tanked his first interview at Microsoft, and and I almost blurted out, well, I've tanked every interview at Microsoft. So I think I've been interviewed by Microsoft like 3 times, with the last time last year, actually, and I've tanked everyone. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the show, and then we can ask some, we can talk to audience, reply some non-technical .NET 5 questions.
Okay, let me share my slides again, Simon. So we can kind of go over some notes I made on a PowerPoint decks, and then we can talk about it. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's good. Definitely.
Okay, and then also in the slides we have the remainder of the prize giveaway questions, and so that should be fun for everybody to learn something. Oh, there's the video that didn't play. So this is the video that from my retirement party 6 years ago when Scott Hunter came, and I was so happy he came down, and there he is. That's when I got to meet him. He's a awesome guy. So a new giveaway. All right. So ready? So for this giveaway, I'm going to give away a copy of one of my books, .NET tip sticker, magnet, and since these are too small for me, I'll send you a CSharpCorner face mask. So and whatever else I have laying around here, because I have a lot of stuff I couldn't give away this year. So so here's the question. What was the name of the podcast that I hosted with my best friend Woody Pewitt that we ran for about a year? So that's the question. So the first person, please try to be from the United States. I'm sorry, I can't afford $50 to ship this outside of the country. So the first person that enters that I'll send that to you this week. Okay. So I'll skip this. Nothing super big happened this week except for Ignite. So I want to welcome everybody to the first show. I kind of said that at the beginning. I'm really, really glad everybody's here, and I'm really glad to everybody who's going to be watching this later. And I hope that, along with Mahesh and the excellent team at CSharpCorner, we can keep this going for as long as you guys want. And because it's not, I'm not going anywhere. So, this show is for you. I really want to hammer home that point that, yeah, we're going to interview, leaders from the tech world, and we're going to have some fun and some other things. But this show is really for you. And, so because of that, I really need your feedback. So if you don't want to put it in the chat, well, better yet, actually just email it to me, and I'll work on it and see if we can work it into a show. But this show is for you. If you have suggestions on topics you want to have discussed, if you have suggestions on guests that you want me to get on the show, I can get people on the show. I've been around this world for a long time, and I'm pretty good at that usually. And also I'm going to maybe do some weekly segments. I'm going to do the first one this week. And if you like that one or don't, let me know. If you want to have, if you have ideas for segments, let me know. So please email me. Of course, the show is every Saturday at 10 a.m. My time, unless I'm on vacation, I guess. So some of the things that I have planned is, of course, interview with top leading leaders in our industry, which we did today, which was freaking awesome, if you ask me. Next week, we'll do some more tech news stuff. I didn't have enough time work on that this week. And the first segment I'm going to do this week is something that I really like talking about. Is a subject called dogfooding. I've known for a long time. And so that'll be the first weekly segment for this week. And more to come. So what do you think, Mahesh?
I think that was great. It's a good idea. I mean, this whole thing, having a Scar Hunter was great. And just, you're going to looks like keep bringing more and more these leaders, which just gets everybody excited. And
yeah. And, and the other thing, and I guess this is, part of my personality is, I don't want to, do a normal show. I want to do something that's fun and kind of light and, and just have fun, and especially it's on the weekend. Why not have some fun, and you can tell your loved ones you have to hide away for an hour. So,
yeah, I'm hiding right now.
It's a good excuse. It's like, I'm sure you've seen my tweets that, I encourage people to donate blood. And whenever I get back from the blood bank, because I donate every month. And when I get back from the blood bank, I always tweet, hey guys, you want to get out of doing yard work? Go donate blood, because now you can't do it for 24 hours. So
nice.
So any more thoughts from you before we go into the first segment?
No, get started. I think that's good to go. You're good to go. And I don't know when you probably want to remind people how they're going to win prize, when you're going to announce the winners one more time.
Well,
so people
Stephen,
have already
replied. Yeah, Stephen, if you can flash the winners up, that'd be great. And so they can, have their name memorialized in our first show, or all our shows, I guess. That'd be awesome. Because we don't want people to think we're not giving away, because I need to get this.
Do you see the screen? Looks like there's winner right there.
I don't see. Oh, I can't see you live. I have to look at the delay. So
you should also be able to see on your screen live. I'm not sure how you're using. Are you in the StreamYard?
Yeah, we'll take care of that later.
Okay, we'll figure out. Yep.
I don't want to stop the show for that. So
yep.
So one of the segments that we did every week on the podcast that I had with my friend Woody Pewitt was dogfooding. And I've known about dogfooding for as long as I can remember. And it's not about dogs. It's not about food either. It's basically about eating your own software or using your own software. And that's really the big thing. And, and to talk about that, I firmly believe that if possible, if the people working on the software, everybody involved in working on the software, or even in the entire company, if they are actually using that software, the company has a vested interest in making that better, right? And I've seen, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of companies doing this very well. And I've seen some companies do it really well. And, and so one of the ways I use dogfooding actually in coding is, so you all know I'm a Microsoft MVP, and every year, except for this year, we go to Microsoft for a week and we learn all this stuff, that's coming out in the next couple of years that we're not allowed to talk about. But one of the things that, that I really work on every year when I go up there, because I am a writer and a speaker and used to be a teacher, is I actually ask people around Microsoft on the teams if they're actually using the framework they've released, right? So the first framework that always popped in my mind when I talk about this is Entity Framework, because people were very nervous about it in the beginning. It wasn't awesome, their first version, but now it's awesome. And but that year, I was at Microsoft and I was asking, are you guys using Entity Framework? Are you using this? And they said yes. And I go, okay, I'm going to start writing about it and teaching about it, because now I know you're going to keep it around for a while, unless it goes the way of Silverlight. So anyway, so for those of you who don't know what dogfooding is, that's why I'm spending a little more time this week on it. And of course, this is a great way for your organization to test everything before it goes out in the real world. I know people right now that don't test unless it's on production, and that's insane if you ask me. But anyway, so and also it demonstrates a confidence in the developer's own products, right? And I think the segment I'm going to do next week is on Amazon Fire TV, because that thing just drives me nuts. And I tweeted about it once, and I got a lot of feedback of other people feeling the same way. And I go, oh, great, it's not me. It does suck, So I think that's what I'm going to do next week. But that's takes a little time with setting up the recording and everything for that. So before we get into the actual dogfooding segment, because I have a video that I'm going to show you, I'm going to give away the $50 Amazon gift card. So everybody, are you at your keyboards? Ready? How many years did I run the San Diego.NET Visual Basic.NET user group, or the San Diego Visual Basic.NET user group? I've already mentioned it a couple times, and you saw it on the video. So there you go. First one answers it, wins $50 in Amazon. I kind of need that. So the first dogfooding I'm going to do is something I've saved. This is a couple months old, from a new add-in, if you guys haven't used it, called Grammarly. And as far as checking for grammar in your Word documents, websites, basically a lot of different surfaces, even PowerPoint now, Grammarly is really good at checking that kind of stuff, and it's actually helped me sound better without paying an editor. So I think their engine works really well. I think it's much better than anything that's in Office. And actually, if anybody on the Office team is listening, why don't you guys just buy Grammarly?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
But the Grammarly add-ins, especially to Word, is pretty dismal. And it continuously frustrates me when I'm working on my book or articles for CSharpCorner. So that's what it does. I like it much better. And the other thing I discovered this week, because I couldn't get Grammarly to freaking work, and so I went back to Word, and then Word started checking all my code in my article. I'm going, why are you checking my code? And Grammarly doesn't check your code, I found out, which is awesome. And I don't know if that's a setting. I can't find it, but it doesn't check code for some reason. So magic going on there, right? So anyway, I'm gonna play the video of just some of the frustrations I'm finding in Word, and we'll talk a little bit about that after the video. So here's an example where I'm trying to fix the word remotely, and I have to click it. Finally, after 7 times, it works, right? Now, if I want to delete their thing that they're telling me, click. I'm trying to make sound effects 9 times. It took me 9 times before it deleted it. And this one is showing, do you want to change done to is done? Where's the cursor? Where is it? I don't see it, right? And so not only, if you actually can see the cursor, it's hard to find. So Grammarly, why don't you just highlight the text in Word that you're telling me about? Why do I have to spend a lot of time searching around my document to where it is? Ugh. All right, so there's other issues. So those are just some I've recorded, I think, when I was working on an article or a book. And so Grammarly, your add-ins, especially for Word, need a lot of work. And I think you need to go back to the drawing board, quite frankly. And it completely does not work in the new crappy interface that WordPress just released. So fix that too, please. So anyway, so that's enough complaining about Grammarly. Any comments?
Yeah, no, back to dog fooding, right? So,
Yeah.
Obviously our guys, CSharpCorner team, they're developing the CSharpCorner platform. I always tell them, guys, you got to use your own platform, but they don't.
Yeah.
And they, I'm finding sometimes these little errors, and I just keep telling them, it's just the mindset that, how sometimes you are in the kitchen and you are cooking, you don't really like your food because you've been cooking it so long.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard, but I still want guys, our CSharpCorner, dev team to go and use the website every day, because that's how you get better, because you become your own user, right? If you become a user of your own application, that's how you build better software.
Yeah. And that actually reminded me of something a company I've recently worked at did that I thought was no one's ever done to me before when I first started working at the company. And so a couple of years ago, I was working for a company that makes these really high-end exercise bikes that basically has a game engine in front of you, and you can play games and watch live videos. And it's kind of like the Peloton on steroids, right? Yeah. And I think it is much better than the Peloton any day of the week. But so every day when I walked in, we had 3 of the bikes, 3 or 4 of the bikes there that we used for testing, and but the first day I started, I said, hey, can you guys show me, the bike? Because that wasn't the product I was working on. And they said, no. and I go, why? And they said, well, because they were working on a brand new version, right? And they actually hired 2 people from Disney to work on it. And they said, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying. The problem that we have testing our own stuff, we are the worst testers ever of our own stuff, right? Because we know how it works, right? And we're used to it. We've probably been using it for months and months and months. And so we know how it works, right? And so we come blind to how other people see it, and like back in the day, I used to always say, I can instantly tell if a developer designed a program because it looks horrible, right? And so what they wanted was a fresh pair of eyes. So they said, Dave, until we get the new one done, the new machine in and the new software loaded and all this stuff, we don't want you looking at it or even using it, right? Because one of my plans, one of my plans was to exercise on the bike every day, but they wouldn't let me. And so they did that. They brought me to the bike. They kind of gave me an overview of how it worked, and then they let me try to figure it out, and it was really helpful for them, I think. And I really, really wish more companies do that. Yeah. So, any other thoughts about that? Because we're a little over.
No, that was good. I like that every episode you're going to have one of these topics.
Yeah.
And dog fooding was important. And next, I think this is a great idea.
Okay, great. So, the last prize giveaway. Ready? And this one's easy because you don't need to answer anything. So everybody watching the show right now gets a free copy of Code Rush from DevExpress. Code Rush is a refactoring tool. It's been around since pretty much the beginning of .NET, and it's the only refactoring tool I'll use. And I even gave it the only dotNetDave approved award this year. So if you go to that link, devexpress.com/dotNetDave, please go there and download your copy, and send them a thank you for donating that to everybody watching today. So I hope you will love it as much as I do. Maybe we'll actually. Yesterday I talked to the guy who I know at that company and started at the company, and I'm going to have him on probably in November. So that'll be fun. So I've got a couple more things. So thanks for watching. We can hang around if CSharpCorner wants and do some questions. But next week I have one of my really, 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 really good friends, Woody Zuhl, coming on. He is the inventor of mob programming, if you've heard of it, and so he's going to be on next week. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited about catching up with Woody and talking about mob programming, because it's pretty cool. Please be safe out there. Please listen to your medical professionals about COVID-19. I want everybody back next week, and I want everybody back, when I come to India in the future. And so please listen to them. My daughter got COVID-19, and so this thing is hitting everybody. So she's fine, but it was scary. So for me as a father. So I'm also working on a intro music for the show, and I already have all the musicians lined up, and we're going to record a rock intro song I'm going to write, and so that will be coming soon. And since I actually know some famous rock singers, I'm going to see if I can tap them to do a little thing at the very end of the song. So with that said, I'm glad everybody's here. Please email me at dotnetdave at live.com with your suggestions, comments. You liked it, you didn't like it. Remind me to send you the swag that I have here for you, because I'm forgetful these days. And thanks a lot. So Mahesh, do you want to keep going, or?
No, I think thank you all. Unless somebody has questions, that was great. I think you're getting some exciting stuff coming up soon. I'm looking forward to it. I think each show will be exciting. It's different than what we've been doing, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. You've heard me the last couple of weeks express my excitement over the show. So, I don't think I've felt this excited about doing a weekly show before. So, and
hopefully you feel better. I know you went to ER last night. That was, and again, these days, crazy days, the hospitals are taking forever. So hopefully you feel better.
If it was last night, I wouldn't be here right now. So it was actually Wednesday. So
okay.
I'm finally starting to show signs of getting better. So my only hope on Thursday was to just get through the show. So I did it.
All right, good job. Congratulations. Awesome work. Let's do it again next week.
All right. See you guys later.
All right. Thank you all.
Over and out.